Hey everybody, welcome back. It is time for our weekly walkthrough for Unit 7, which means that we only have 2 weeks left in the course. So Unit 7 is our last unit with a major writing project in it. Unit 8 is more about reflection and review. So we're going to take a look at what's happening this week. And I just want to remind you that if you have work from units 1 through 6 that you have not turned in, please do so this week. If you don't turn things in until the very last week of class, it is almost impossible to earn a passing grade because, of course, it's so late. So please, 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 if you need help with something, reach out by email, send me a message. We can work on it. We can figure something out. But please, if you have work outstanding from units 1 through 6, this is the week that you need to get those done. So let's take a look at Unit 7. And we'll be looking at the sample here in a moment, but let's start with the course. As you know, of course, the unit is Unit 7, and the theme this week is communication. Of course, it's a writing class, and we have been talking a lot about communication in various ways. Certainly verbal, written expression is kind of our main thing in an English class, but we've also looked at using visuals to communicate. We've looked at, using your soft skills to communicate. There's a lot of things that go beyond just straight up writing in terms of communication. So this week, we're going to be focusing on a couple of things related to digital literacy, including evaluating different digital media platforms, examining different types of communication, and of course, using research to augment and supplement and prove your opinion. You're going to be writing a researched essay for your writing assignment this week. So as usual, you need to start with the readings and resources. In Unit 7, you have 2 chapters from the normal ebook that we normally start out with, Chapter 4 on drafting and revising, and Chapter 5 on editing and sharing. One of the big things with writing is, of course, that if you just finish it and turn it in immediately, chances are there's going to be errors in it because we're all human, myself included. And so learning about the importance of revising your work is a big part of college writing. So that's what we're focusing on with those readings. In addition to that, you've got some articles, websites, and videos as usual. The first one talks about body language. And so there's the nonverbal communication that was mentioned in the overview. What is universal? What things are considered rude in some cultures that might not be in others, and vice versa. One of the really interesting things that I remember learning about is that in many cultures, it is considered rude for people to say the bottom of your shoe. And so you'll see a lot of times on American talk shows, the people who are in the interview seat are often, crossing their legs or whatever. I'm crossing mine right now, which is what made me think of this. And the bottoms of their shoes are visible on television. And in many cultures, that would be considered very rude. So it's not always universal, but body language is something that it's important to know about. Then there's an article about that in terms of being persuasive. You're using your body language to be persuasive. And then we have an article on this one's kind of interesting to me, whether body language is something we learn or it's something that comes naturally. So that's kind of fun. And then finally, you've got there's more than two. Sorry. You've got one video that you're going to use in this week's discussion board. This is a clip from a movie called Tin Men, and you are going to need to refer to this video during your discussion board. So make sure that you watch it, make sure that you come back to it as you're writing your discussion board and sharing your thoughts on that. And then we have some supplemental resources, Navigating the New Normal, which is a helpful thing for online students. There are, benefits and drawbacks to being a fully online student. So this is a video that you guys can relate to as people who are taking fully online classes. Then there is a video on academic research and writing good introductions. Conducting good research is a key skill that you will use throughout your time in higher ed. Interactions through digital media talks about the different things that we need to be aware of through social media, being respectful, all those wonderful things. Empathy and community shows students how to react to online conflict on social media. I don't know about you, but there have been times where I just block people or unfollow or unfriend them because the conflict and the negativity is just a little crazy. So that's a helpful reminder. The next video talks about body language again. And then there's two that deal specifically with body language, and then one at the very end that talks about communicating specifically in the workplace. What you will find, at least what I find, is that workplace communication and academic communication are very, very similar. We sometimes think when we're writing for school that we have to use all these great big words and whatever, but really professional writing is professional writing. And so you will find that communication styles for the workplace also translate well into the academic world. So it's a lot of videos, I know, but once you've gone through those, of course, it will be time to then continue with the unit. There are two interactive exercises this week, so please make sure that you do both of those. One of them is going to talk about creating reference pages, and we have done those already, but this is going to be the first time that you're kind of creating one completely on your own. Please make sure to do both of those. And then the Unit 7.2 interactive deals with academic writing. So please make sure you do both of those before going into the two graded assignments. You do not have a journal this week. It's just a discussion and the essay. So let's talk about the discussion first. It can sometimes be hard to determine what is factual online. There are so many elements to consider, such as the author, the validity of the information, and company sponsorships. To help us look more deeply into the analysis of multimedia and social media, we're going to look at the movie clip from the movie Tin Men that is in your readings and resources, and then discuss what you notice as it relates to evaluating information. So, in your initial response, you want to answer these prompts. Number one, are the two men credible? Is the information they present reliable? Are they good communicators? Interestingly, you can be a great communicator and still not be telling the truth. So, some people would argue that's not good communication, but there are plenty of people who are very good at communicating, but some of the things they say don't make any sense, or you find out later are inaccurate or even misleading. Do they, the men in the clip, have an understanding of the audience, their audience? Do they have a clear purpose, even if they don't explain it to the person they're talking to? And this is something that we deal with in writing a lot. A lot of times we will have a purpose for our writing to persuade or whatever, but we don't necessarily say, hey, I'm going to convince you to do this. You don't always say those things out loud. Do they have a clear purpose, even if they do not explain it to the person they are talking to? And then, of course, feel free to write about one of these options or anything else that caught your interest in the movie clip that relates specifically to this idea of communication. As usual, you are required to post your own response first, and then you need to respond to at least two other posts. So make sure that before Sunday night of the end of this week, you have done at least 3 posts. Okay. Your initial post should be at least a very well-developed paragraph, and your responses to others should be shorter paragraphs, but still paragraphs nonetheless. I always say aim for 3 to 5 sentences on those. Maybe ask your classmates a question or two, and be sure to respond if someone like me asks you a question in response to your initial post. Okay. Then we come to the biggest paper that we've really done so far. You have written a short essay before. This one's a little bit longer, and it is a little bit more involved in terms of supporting your own position with research. So in the previous unit, you considered a writer's position, not your own position, but what they had to say. Now you will explore your own ideas surrounding communication and other transferable skills to create a short paper on the subject. So first step is to, of course, review the information about communication in the readings and resources. And you're going to end up creating a short paper of 3 paragraphs. So you've written one of those before. These paragraphs are going to be a little bit longer than they were required to be the last time. So you've got 3 paragraphs. In the first one, you will address the following. What role will verbal and nonverbal communication have in your future career? Begin by explaining how good verbal and nonverbal communication will help you in the career you have decided to pursue. Why would you consider them to be important in your future career? Next, include information from one of the articles in this week's unit in your own words. So you're being asked not to give a direct quote from it, but to put one of the concepts into your own words. We call that, of course, paraphrasing. When you paraphrase from a source, you still have to give a citation to show where that information came from. So when you cite the article, your format for the in-text citation will be the author's last name, the year, and page number, if that is available. If you can see an original page number on the page when you read it, you use a page number. In the second paragraph, you have a new set of questions here. Review your annotated bibliography from last week. So from Unit 6, remember we did those 3 articles that all dealt with soft skills. Pick one additional soft skill from the articles in the Unit 6 readings and resources and answer the following questions. What is the soft skill you chose? Why would you consider the soft skill you picked to write about important to your future career? And in this one, you're going to use a direct quotation from the article to support your answers to the questions above. When citing this article, use the format for the in-text citation. It'll be the same, author's last name, year, and page number. If there is no author, we use what comes first in the reference page. So one of the big things that you want to do before you really even get into writing those first 2 paragraphs is to create the reference page that has your citations on it. And we'll talk about that when we look at the sample. So finally, in the third paragraph, end your paper by answering the following questions. How does your understanding of digital literacy help you develop communication and the soft skill mentioned above? You will end with a reference page. So you will have at least 3 pages, the cover page, title page, the essay, which is going to be double spaced and will start at the top of page 2, and then the reference page, which will start at the top of whatever page comes next. So if your essay goes past the bottom of page 2, then your reference page wouldn't be until page 4, et cetera, et cetera. There is a template. You do not have to recreate the wheel. The template is available for you, and I'm going to supply you with the sample as usual. So you'll turn that in, of course, by Sunday night. So on the attachments, you have, again, the template. This template we've seen before. It is also available over on the left-hand side under the APA information, APA 7th edition link. I'm not going to open that. I'm going to open my sample instead, but this is the same template that you've seen before. It will have all those things in place. So you just need to type over everything and create your own content. And then, of course, we have the official assignment, which does also contain the rubric. I've already gone over everything that's in here, but I just want to remind you that we do have some requirements listed. This is really important. So on the reference page, you have to have two items. They will be in alphabetical order, and one is going to be from Unit 6 and one is going to be from Unit 7. Okay, it says references at the top of the page, and that's the last page of your assignment. So submit a Word document in APA format that has title page or cover page, whatever you want to call it. The whole document will be double spaced. It'll have 1-inch margins. Use a recommended font. Times New Roman 12 point is the kind of industry standard, but you can use whatever default font you have on your computer. I always suggest, changing as few things as possible. And then you're going to have the reference page in proper APA format for the selected articles. So that too is going to be in double spacing, but instead of indenting the first line like you do in a regular paragraph, the second line and after are indented, which is what we call a hanging indent. And I will show you how to accomplish that. Each of the 3 paragraphs in the paper should be at least 6 sentences in length. And remember, in the first paragraph, you need a paraphrased piece of information from an article from Unit 7. And in the second paragraph, you need a direct quotation with the in-text citation as well. And that should come from your article that you've chosen from Unit 6. So those are from last week's articles. Rubric, title page, 3 paragraphs. Did you use a direct quote? Do you have a reference page? Are your paragraphs long enough? And did you follow APA for formatting, grammar, and mechanics? Please remember that that rubric is going to help you as you plan your paper, but you also want to check the rubric again before you submit your paper, because it's very obvious if you don't have a title page, that's minus 13 points. It's that simple. So please do check the rubric both before you write it and during the writing and before you submit it. Okay, let's take a look at the sample. All right, so Unit 7 writing assignment, we've got the page numbers in the header. We've got the student's name on the second line, English Department, Post University. You guys should be familiar with this all by now. And then the last line on the cover page is the date. And Sunday's date is December 8th. That is the due date for this assignment. So I went ahead and changed it on this. Then we have the 3 paragraphs. Now, again, I haven't written out paragraphs for you, but I have included the prompts and I have included a reminder that you do need to utilize in-text citation. So what role will verbal and nonverbal communication have in your future career? Begin by explaining how good verbal and nonverbal communication, et cetera, et cetera. So this one is where you're going to paraphrase and you're going to have an in-text citation that matches what comes on the reference page. So the second one is where you have a direct quote, and I do have that, lined out like it would look. One of the things I want to point out to you in paragraph 2 is that it is really important when you include a direct quotation to attach it to something of your own. So we tend to use signal phrases like in an article from Star Press or on such and such website. Like we usually use some kind of phrase to introduce the quote, use the quote, and then we have the author, the year, and in this case, it was an online article. So instead of the page number, we have a paragraph number, and you would number it that way. P-A-R-A-P, sentence, period. Anyway, you can read. And then, of course, in the third paragraph, you end the paper. I made this long enough to where you would see what it looks like when you go on to page 3, because 3 double-spaced paragraphs of 6 or more sentences will most likely go at least on to page 3. Okay, starting at the top of page 4, then we have a references page. You will notice that they are in alphabetical order, B, M, and then S. We have the full citations, which were included for you in the materials, as well as, of course, for library sources, I've shown you guys where to find those before. So that's all you have to do. Now, one thing I will mention, if you are using something that does not have an author, now you will only have to have 2 items on your references page, but I wanted to put one on here that does not have an author so that I could explain what you would do if you don't have an author and if you don't, in this case, also have a date. So notice that soft skills, the competitive edge is the title. We don't have an author, so that's what comes first. And then it does not have a date. Burrell's article was 2019. Moen's article was 2023. So in those in-text citations, you would be able to include the date. But let's say that we have paraphrased something from that last article. In fact, I'm going to just put it right here. It came from the Department of Labor. So I'm going to mention the source according to the U.S. Department of Labor. And then I would give my little paraphrase, not a direct quote. Now, when I cite this, I'm going to put in italics because the title is in italics. It's going to say soft skills. You do not have to use the whole title, just the first couple of words are sufficient. But we then have to, oops, except sorry, there we go. And then we have to put in period, D period for no date. And let's say I'm using something from paragraph 3, okay? If you are doing something that's super, super long, you are not expected to number the paragraphs, but most of our articles are fairly short. So because this is a website, it wouldn't have a page number, but you can use the paragraph number just like I did in the one after that. So I'm going to leave this here so you see what it looks like. But that's what your paraphrase is it's still gonna get cited, just like you would if you were quoting it directly. Okay. So that's it for this week. When you finish that, of course, you will turn that in. And I promise that the workload in week 8 is a little bit lighter. So, but do try to get caught up this week. If there's something that you haven't turned in, let's try to get that done in week 7 so that you do not have to rush to try to finish everything in week 8, because it's usually not a good idea. All right. Take care, everybody. I hope everybody had a pleasant Thanksgiving, and I will see you. I will be, of course, hosting one final workshop tomorrow evening on Tuesday, the 3rd. So hopefully some of you can make it there. Otherwise, I will see you for one more video next Monday. So take care, everybody. Have a great week 7.